Hello guys and welcome back to another episode. So today we're going through the Resto Druid in World of Warcraft patch 8.1. So this will be a guide that is going to help you play Resto Druid, so Restoration Druids, in patch 8.1. So what we're going through is the following things that you see here. So we're going through changes, stats, Azerite, talents and gameplay. So I will be going through all those things so you can learn the basics of Restoration Druid. So if you have like any worries about how do I do that, which stats should I use, what Azerite should I use, and talents and gameplay, well, I'm going through all the things, so after watching this guide you should be pretty well informed on how you play Restoration Druid. So let's just dive directly into it and go through the changes. So I have two pages for changes. This is the first one. So first of all, wild growth healing is increased by 10%. That is a buff and I like it, that is nice. But Tranquility's direct healing is decreased by 10 and Tranquility's heal over time is decreased by 40. That is sad. I mean, it's a big nerf for Tranquility, but I mean, wild growth got a little buff, so I guess. But again, Tranquility was also, I would say, probably overpowered, and it could heal the, any mythic groups up in full health. I mean, mythic dungeons, because in mythic dungeon it heals more. So, I can understand the nerf. Also, we got two new Azerite traits on this page, as you can see. We got the early harvest that is going to replace fungal essence, and we got the switch hitter that is replacing Azerite fortification. So first of all, if you go through the early harvest, when wild growth expired, it heals the target for a moderate amount if they're injured. So that means if they still miss health, they will get a healing. But if they are full health, it will reduce the cooldown of Innovate by 1 second. Also, we had the new, the new Azerite trait called Switch Hitter. And so in your talents you can use your affinity. So if you want to have better cat form, balanced druid or bear form, it actually just gives some bonus effects for those affinities. So Star Search will now give Leech for 20 seconds, Ferocity Bite will give 287 speed for 20 seconds, and Frenzied Restoration will give 278 avoidance for 20 seconds. So not my favorite talent, but it can be used. So also on page 2 we have some more changes. So Autumn Leaves Azerite trait is now reducing, the healing of that Azerite trait is reduced very much. But now it also increased the duration of Rejuvenation by 1. So okay, it heals less, but it makes the duration of Rejuvenation longer. That's something for something. Lively Spirit Azerite trait intellect gain reduced, but now restores 0.5 mana per spell cast. Again, that's also a gift for a gift. And I'm like, is that really necessary? You nerf it and then you give it another effect? Why not just leave it? But again, that's up to Reddit. Ephemeral Recovery Azerite trait no longer provides a stackable mana regeneration buff. Instead, it restores a small amount of mana when you fall below 20% mana, and it has a 3-minute cooldown on that. Again, they changed it as a right trait, but they probably changed a lot of them, so let's just keep it for that. So that was the changes from patch 8.0 to 8.1. If you wondered on how big changes does Restoration Druid actually got from the patch, but as you can see, it's not the biggest. We just have some buff and nerfs and small things. So now let's talk about the stats. So with the stats normally I just have one list of stats, but Restoration Druid is a bit different. They actually have some stats that is the most recommended in raiding and also for dungeon. So for raiding, it's of course, intellect is the most preferred one, as it increases your healing. It basically does everything for you, and intellect should be of course the main stat for you. And I know you will probably say now, I know that I have it on all my gear pieces, but no, if you get a trinket, you can actually get a trinket with either intellect, haste, mastery, facility, critical strike. If it's the same eye level, I will always recommend taking a trinket with intellect on it. Except if for example the trinket is 10 eye level higher, I would probably take the one with haste. But again, back to the stats. So intellect is the one, of course, number 1. After intellect for rating, haste, mastery and versatility is actually all 3 are very good. I mean, all of them is quite good and for different scenarios in rating. So haste, mastery and versatility, they are actually very close to each other. I mean, you can look it up on any website, they will tell you the same. Haste, mastery and versatility for rating is pretty much the same for Resto Druid in rating. And for the last one, critical strike is like the worst one. So critical strike is like the worst one, but haste, mastery and versatility is equal in rating. Both of these 3 stats is very important. So you cannot really say which one of them is the best one for rating. But dungeons where you only have 5 persons. Intellect, of course, is the number 1 again. Then it's mastery. And the reason for why mastery is because the more mastery you have, the more healing you actually do to people when they have more healing over time on them. So in raids, you don't really maybe have time to put 5 or 3 or 2 healing over times on each target. But in dungeons, it's very easy to keep up a lot of healing over time on a lot of targets. So that's why mastery is so important in 5-man dungeons, because it's much easier to use the mastery bonus. After mastery in dungeons, it's haste. And the reason for why it's haste is because the haste is actually reducing, it's reducing your global cooldown, and it's also reducing, so for example, if your rejuvenation is 10 seconds on the target, the more haste you get, the shorter duration it will be on the target, but that means it actually will heal faster. So if it's on for 10 seconds and it has 10 ticks, let's say you get 20% haste, now it's only on the target for 8 seconds, but it will still have 10 ticks. That means it will heal a lot faster, and that means the target will get a lot of more healing on that short seconds. So again, for dungeons, intellect is the best, mastery is number 2, haste is number 3, and after haste it's versatility, that is number 4. I mean it reduces the damage you take, it also increases the healing you're doing, flat healing, so for that it's also really great. Critical strike is again like the last one that you don't really want to think about that much. So that's the stats. If you're really like, okay, I'm raiding and doing dungeon, what should I go for? I would say the stats that I'm showing right now for the dungeons, just take them as default if you're not sure what to do. Just go with intellect, mastery, haste and versatility in that order and you should be super fine. So now it is time for the Azerite traits. So let's start with the outer ring on the Azerite traits. I mean, we should take 1 ring at each time. So first here we have the outer ring. So these 3 outer ring traits is the one I recommend for using. Of course you cannot have them all at the same time. Probably you can if you have a chest, shoulder and helm. Of course you can have 3 of them, but again they are also very good stacking. But my favorite one is Waking Dream. So Ysur's gift now heals every 4 seconds and heals for an additional 30 for each of your active rejuvenation. Personally, I think it's a great buff that it heals every 4th second instead of every 5th second. So Waking Dream is probably one of my favorites. After that it's Atom Leaves. Rejuvenation duration is increased by 1 second and it heals for an additional 15 when it is your only heal over the time on the target. So that means this one here is pretty great for healing in a raiding because you don't have time to put multiple healing over times on every one. So here you can just spam out rejuvenation and Autumn Leaves will actually quite help you. I mean, if you take this one here and stack that trait 3 times in your gear in a raiding, rejuvenation is going to be pretty powerful for you. In a 5-man dungeon I cannot really recommend that much Autumn Leaves. It can be great for short, quick healing, but yeah. The next one, so probably a lot of you is now looking weird at me and saying, is it really Archive of the Titan you're talking about? And yes, your armor is gathering and analyzes combat data every 5 seconds, increasing your primary stat by 7, stacking up to 20 times. That means you actually get more intellect, and for long fights where you have to be in a fight for a long time, this one here is actually really great. Of course, if you are in a place where you have a lot of breaks, and it's not that good because it will decay so it will fade off. But I mean, if you are, for example, let's say in a mythic dungeon where your team is really fast and you're just fighting with no breaks because you just want to beat that timer, no problem, you will have the maximum stats up all the time. So that would be really great for having Archive the Titans. And again, if you're in a raid or you have a boss fight that takes over 20 minutes, Archive of the Titans will also be on full stack. So Waking Dream, Autumn Leaves and Archive of the Titans are really great all in raids. For dungeons, I would probably only say Waking Dreams and Archive of the Titans, and Autumn Leaves is like, it's a bit meh, but you can still use it if you want. So on the middle ring, I recommend Blessed Potence, Concentrated Mending, and Blood Siphon. So first of all, Blessed Potence is really great. It gives so every time you heal, you have a chance to give Blessed Potence on your target, and when they fall below 50% health, it actually heals quite a lot. I mean, that can be a cool thing to mix together with your healing over times, that you have a little burst that automatically heals, and with all the healing you're dealing to your targets, Blessed Potence will probably be on all your targets all the time. Also for that, I like the one called Concentrated Mending. I know you have a lot of healing over time, but I think it's pretty cool, this one here, to have as a Resto Druid. So Concentrated Mending causes your healing effects to have a chance to grant the target a hot, so healing over time, that heals every 2 seconds for 12 seconds. The amount healed doubles every 2 seconds. So beside all your healing over time, your healing over times is going to create another healing over time with your Azerite trait, and with that you just simply boom, healing a lot on your targets. So I really like Concentrated Mending. I think it's a really great one. You probably not agree with me, but I like it for the middle ring. The last one for the middle ring is Blood Siphon, and the only reason for that is because it increases your mastery by a lot. It increases your mastery by so much that it's lovely. It's a really great one, and I really appreciate to having it because it just increased my mastery, and we like to have more mastery, so why not? It's a really great one. So that was the changes, the stats, the Azerite, and now we only need the talents and gameplay. So I will be switching the screen into the game instead, so we can see look at the talents directly in the game, and of course also the gameplay. And here we are with the talents. So let's go through each row one by one, and I will explain what talents I think you should use and for which scenarios. So for the first row up here, Scenario Ward would be the one I say default take. I mean, in almost any situations it's good. It also stacks with your mastery, so your mastery synergy you have, where is it here? Master Harmony. It also stacks together with Scenario Ward, so it helps you on that one. Prosperity, never take it. Abundance, it can be really good also, abundance, but it's only good if you can have at least 5 to 7 stacks of Rejuvenation up, and it should only be used as talent if you have a lot of mana in these fights you're going and you don't have a mana problem, and you're able to actually hold up these 5 to 7 up. If not, Scenario Ward would be the best one, I would say. So for me, I would take Scenario Ward no matter, always. The next one, I would say always take Wild Charge, because Wild Charge is removed from your global cooldown. That means you can use Wild Charge to escape any when you want, and it doesn't have any global cooldown. So I mean, you can heal on the same time using Wild Charge getting away. So I would say Wild Charge is my primary on here. The next row, I would say Guardian Affinity is also the best one here. It helps you stay alive, and you have an extra healing when you go into bear form, and it also reduces all your damage taken by 6%. Balance Affinity could also be cool if you need that extra range on your spells, but default I would say Guardian's Affinity is the best one. For the next row, it's pretty much up to you. If you want to have a massive interrupt. So if you like fighting at Mythic Dungeon and 5 of the trash mobs begins to cast spells, you can interrupt them all with Typhoon, or you can take one stun, that is Mighty Bash. So you can either choose with a stun or interrupt. But keep in mind, Typhoon is pushing the enemy, so you can risk pushing another group. For the next row, I mainly recommend, well, okay, let's take it. Cultivation is the one I would recommend for Mythic Dungeons, as it also in Mythic Dungeon mastery is very important together with your mastery of Harmony, and Cultivation is stacking together with your mastery. So Cultivation will be the one I say go for with dungeons. For raids, Incarnation is probably the best one. It gives you a solid burst, and it's in overall it's really great in a raid where you can help up your whole team. So I would say in raiding, Incarnation, Tree of Life is the best one, and for dungeons, Cultivation is the best one. For next row, Inner Peace is like my default one that I will go with all the time. So with Inner Peace, my Tranquility only has 2-minute cooldown. If I don't have Inner Peace, it has 3-minute cooldown. So Inner Peace helps me using, for Mythic Dungeons for example, it helps that you can tell your party, okay, my Tranquility is ready, let's make some big pools so we can clear this Mythic Dungeon fast. In that way it can help, so you have your big healing ready all the time. But also Spring Blossom is also really great if you can get your team standing on the same position. So that means every time you have anyone in Florence, they get like an extra healing over time. That also stacks with your mastery, so it's really great. But if your team doesn't really want to stay in the same position, it is not that highly recommended. So it only depends on if your team wants to stay together, use Spring Blossoms. It can be really good, but else Inner Peace is like the default one, I would say. For the last row, Flourish should be used in a raid. It's a really great healing in raids. I mean, after you spammed all your healings on everyone for massive AoE healing to everyone, you can use Flourish, and extends the duration of all your heal over time effects on friendly target within 60 yards, by 8 seconds, and increase the rate of your heal over time effects by 100% for 8 seconds. So in a raid, Flourish is like Omega. But in a dungeon, I would say 5-man dungeon, a Mythic dungeon, I would say Germination is like the Omega. Photosynthesis, I'm really not seeing that going to happen to use that one. But Germination 100% in dungeons, and Flourish in raids. So you could probably say in a raid you will have something that look like this as a talent, and in dungeon you will probably have something look like this. What you see now is probably what I defaultly would run around with all the time, but in a raid I could probably switch out these two to be more solid on the burst and healing over time on a massive scale of group. So this is the talents I would go with. So for the gameplay, let's take that one. So here we are for the gameplay. So first of all, when playing Resto Druid, when you're inside a tank, when you're inside a group or a raid, keep Life Bloom on the tank all the time. So Life Bloom, keep it up on the tank all the time. I mean, it heals a lot and it's really great, and you can only have one active each time, so you should just defaultly use Life Bloom on your tank all the time. So every time it expires on the tank, just use it again and keep it on your tank all the time. So when everyone in your group begins to start taking damage, I recommend to use a one Revenation on them. So cast out a Revenation, like okay, these 3 are taking damage, let's try use a Revenation on them and see if that can help them. Is that enough for healing them? Also, you have your Germination. If you enter that means you can actually use 2 times Revenation on them, and now they have 2 healing over times. They will also both heal more because you have your mastery, so every time you have a restoration, well, healing over time on them, it heals more. So that is the first basics. So keep life bloom on the tank all the time. Use rejuvenation like a little healing if someone is close to die. You also have, if we remove this one, you also have your regrowth. That is great because it heals 10,000 and 5,000 over time. But the problem with regrowth is it costs a bit more than rejuvenation. So if you just keep spamming regrowth on everyone, you will probably end up in going out of mana. So that's why I'm not saying spam regrowth on everyone who needs some health. Try see if rejuvenation can do enough healing. So again, let's imagine this guy here is the tank. So first of all, I'm stacking life bloom on him. Now he's going to take heavy damage. Then I use Cenarian Ward on him, because Cenarian Ward will, next time he takes damage, it will then heal him for a lot. So taking damage will grant 4,600 healing every 1.8 seconds for 8 seconds. So again, on the tank, keep life bloom up, use Cenarian Ward on him, you know he's going to take a lot of damage. Then I probably also use 2 rejuvenations and a regrowth if really needed. Now you can see I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 healing over times active on him. That means my mastery now will actually be double 5 times. Your healing is increased by 11 for each restoration heal over time effects on the target. So when so if you're in a group and you can see the tank is taking damage, don't begin to spam regrowth on him. It's much more important that you actually get your healing over times on him, because every time you have another healing over time on him, it actually, well, it increases the healing he gets, like basically 10% every healing he gets. So try to see if you can keep up your healing over times on him. And I mean, you really don't use that much mana. You can see here, if I put everything on this guy, here, and here, you can see I'm still over 90% of my mana. So it's not because I'm using that much mana for keeping it on. So another great hint is, if your group is staying in the same place, use Efflorence so everyone inside it will get free healing, and use your wild growth if your team is in the side of 30 yards. And remember, wild growth got a 10% buff. So if your group is missing health, like everyone is taking damage, use Efflorence, try to see if you can get your team stacked together, and use wild growth so it can heal the entire team up. It heals up to 6 endured allies within 30 yards. So if you're in a dungeon group, don't worry, everyone will get it. If you're in a raid, well, then it's only 6 endured allies. So again, just for tip, life bloom on your tank. If anyone is taking low damage, give them a rejuvenation. It will be okay. If they take some more damage, use a rejuvenation again, so they have rejuvenation and germination on them. If they take more damage, just a simple one, you can use regrowth on them or Cenarian Ward. If a lot of your group taking damage, use wild growth and Efflorence. If things is going really bad, use Tranquility, and it will kindly heal up your whole group, just like that. Keep in mind, healing is increased by 100 when not in a raid, so that means in a mythic dungeon group, it's healing 100% increased. So that's why in a mythic dungeon, I really like to have inner peace, because you have more tranquilities you can use for greater healing. Also, keep in mind for self-defending, you have, what is it? Baskin. Your skin becomes as tough as bark, and you reduce all damage taken by 20%. Also, you have this one here, Iron Bark, that you actually can use on someone. So you can see Iron Bark here, and now all damage taken is reduced by 20. So you can get 20% decreased damage on yourself with Iron Bark, Baskin, and you can cast Iron Bark on the tank so he takes 20% less damage. I mean, that's pretty cool. Also, if you know, okay, for the next, 12 seconds, I'm going to spam a lot of spells. Like a lot of spells. So now I'm going to heal so much. then use Innovate, like try to precast some of your spells and then use Innovate and continue your spam healing, because Innovate will remove all your mana cost and just now you don't have to take care of it. Of course, maybe not use it while you're on 100% of healing of mana. Try to get down on 80 or 70, so in those 12 seconds you have Innovate active, you actually get mana back in that time, instead of you just like you already have maximum mana, so you don't really get anything out of it. So try to get down on 80, 70 mana, use Innovate, and then spam area of your healing. Keep in mind you also have an enchantment, so that means you can basically set anyone, root them, but if they are shooting, it doesn't really help. If you are into a Mighty Bash, you can also you can stun, or if you have Typhoon, you can interrupt a whole area. If you're talented into Guardian's Affinity, you can go into bear form and basically heal yourself with Frenzied Regeneration. It heals, what is it, 25% of your maximum health. That is quite good, and out again. Of course, try to see if you can heal just with healing yourself, but if you really need, go into that bear form, get some more health and of course armor, heal up with Frenzied Regeneration, and get out again and heal your team. Really recommend that. So for the last part, I would probably say that you have also Nature's Curse, that is removing curse harmful effects on the friendly target. It removes all magic, curses and poisons. Can be used pretty good. You also have Swiftment, and dear Swiftment, if your tank is, let's say he's close to die, you have your healings up on him, so now I have all these healings here, so now he has 5 healings over time on him. Then you can use Swiftment, then you can see it just healed 27k, and that was because I have so many healings over time on him that I got the bonus. So normally it would only heal 20k, but now Swiftment healed 27k. And if you are not really comfortable with Swiftment, it's a really great spell that just instantly boom heals 20k. And try to not use it just instantly, try to see if you can get some healing over time on the target, so from your mastery it will increase your healing. Yeah. And keep in mind, as a druid you also have a combat rest, but you probably already know that. So I mean, that's not really so much gameplay tips. I mean, you have just given you the rotation on how you can play the spec now, with which spells you use in which order. But I mean, I cannot really say how you should play a Restoration Druid gameplay. It's up to you how you feel like using your spells, but I'm just giving the tips to when to use Life Bloom, when to use this spell. So from here on, I would say it's pretty much up to you on how you play the spec. But now, you can probably say I've given you all the resources to know what to do. So with all that knowledge now of knowing what the changes is, the stats, the Azerite, the talents and gameplay, you should be pretty comfortable playing Restoration Druid now in Battle for Azeroth patch 8.1. So if you have any questions about Resto Druid, leave down in the comments. If you have a quick request on what spec and class you want to see in the next video, leave down a comment. Else I can just say thanks you guys for watching. I really appreciate you watching my guides. I mean, every time I get a comment on these videos, it just makes me give me energy for creating the next video. So thanks you guys for watching, thank you guys for commenting, liking, and well, let me know what you think. So thanks you guys for watching, have a great evening, and see you on the other side.